Evening, Mac. Good to see you, mate.
Good to see you too. And we've got Tony, as always. Tony, the man, the legend. You right?
Well, legend is on one time. Yeah. Good evening, Malcolm.
President correct. Good. That's what I love. I love to see everybody happy. So it's April the 29th, and talk about some good cricket. So first things first, we're going to talk, or Steve is anyway, and Tony, about the IPL. It's pretty intense at the moment. There's a pandemic, COVID pandemic in India. Thousands are dying on a daily basis, and IPL is carrying on. But there's a lot of talk about should it carry on or shouldn't it. Some of the players have pulled out. Some of the players have contributed towards the efforts. So there's a lot of talk to have been done about that. So Steve's going to talk about that, and their boys are going to talk about the county cricket as well, and other cricket news as well. So take it away, Steve.
Yeah, cheers, Mac. So yeah, I suppose this has been the big kind of story or big kind of thought of the week is the IPL is going on, game every day. Some days there's 2 games. All the usual exciting cricket and lots of on-pitch stories. But I suppose we started to see at the beginnings of some of the overseas players heading home, particularly the Australian players. Adam Zampa, I think, has won, and some others that have headed home. And on the show last week, we spoke about Liam Livingstone heading home as well. And he decided he hadn't spent enough time in a bubble and was coming back. So there's a bit of a flow of players leaving India and moving away, and I suppose it comes a point, particularly when you see a bunch of Australians, Tony. Do you think the IPL should be suspended, cancelled at this point? What's your take on that question?
Well, I have a pretty firm opinion, and my answer is no. I don't think it should be cancelled. I don't mind. Obviously, you must give individual players, in view of the tragedy of the pandemic in India, the second surge. You must give them the option should they wish to leave without any penalties for breaking contracts, etc. But I think psychologically, especially in India, who are absolutely cricket mad, I think for them to have a little break from the all-round tragedies, to be able to watch on their TVs and listen on their radios to the IPL, I think it can only be psychologically good for them. So, and that in that respect, provided, of course, that the bubbles are secure and that the health risk is not there, I do feel that the IPL should continue. That's my view. I think the Indians love it, and I think it would be a terrible kick in the stomach for them if that was cancelled.
Yeah, I think that's tended to be the view of most cricket people in India as well. And obviously they've, from a commercial perspective, they've also got broadcast contracts to fulfill and so on as well, and who knows what clauses are in those contracts which mean the tournament itself will keep going. But I think also interesting, I think Ravi Ashwin has stepped away from his bubble and has gone back to his family as well, so I guess it's not just the overseas players. So I think your point about
he's taken time out, I think, is what would be, but I don't know whether he will be in practice allowed back because he will have broken the bubble. I can't see him coming back. But as I said, I think that should be the right of every cricketer in it. If they feel uncomfortable, then they should be allowed to leave. And of course, there could possibly come a time, if a significant number left, where the actual standard of the play and the numbers in the teams would make it difficult to continue. But my view is psychologically I would continue as long as possible.
Yeah, I think as well, I mean, some of the players have been addressing this as well. I think Glenn Maxwell was on a podcast today talking about it. And I think Pat Cummins as well seeming to be at the forefront of a move by some of the players to donate some of their fees.
Well, he's already donated a prodigious amount. I think it's 16,000 or something like that.
Yeah. But I think there's a few players he's trying to, I think, get a few of the players to do so and to make that make that sort of stand and that gesture. It's more than a gesture. It's very generous, but to do that. So yeah, I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? I suppose that the challenge for the players and for the and for the tournament organisers is judging if it reaches a point where it does become a bit off and a bit against the mood to continue playing. But at this point, I think I would agree with you, Tony, that so long as the players themselves are not forced into situations where they fear for their health, which obviously would be completely in any circumstance would be beyond the pale.
I tend to look at all the other outdoor sports, which once the initial phase one, if you like, of the pandemic was gone, and we moved on into stage two or phase two. We had learned so much from phase one. Most sporting events throughout the world have continued. They have only failed to continue it if the particular bubbles that they've been in have been burst. And so there's been an unacceptable number of cases within the bubbles. I mean, even in football in the UK, there have been matches cancelled, postponed, because too many people have got COVID. But by and large, they have taken the view that as long as the bubble itself is reasonably secure, and let's face it, it is now accepted, I think, that outdoor sports do not pose a serious threat as far as passing on the virus is concerned, because it seems to float away on the wind, so to speak. So I wouldn't be too worried about the person-to-person contact in the sport. It's merely, I think, the bubble that is the important thing. And certainly if the bubble is secure, I do think that the people will benefit from watching it.
Yeah. One or two eyebrows have been raised given England's reaction in South Africa during the winter to kind of cutting the series short, and I think, in fact, actually I read that they didn't come home early. They still got the same flight back that they were scheduled to fly back on, but they cut short the last game or last games. And I guess that was more of a question of, I think, as I understand it, the England management being less impressed with the way the bubble was being maintained.
I think that's it. I don't think it was anything other than that. And I think the Australians cancelled a visit to was it Pakistan for the same reason. And the Australians are quite rigid in their approach to the bubble, even in the country itself. And for instance, some problem with the Australians is that the Australian authorities cancelled all flights into the country.
Yeah.
So that the probability was that the players couldn't get back for an indeterminate period of time. So those, I think, who possibly had been away for a long time or had family worries or concerns, decided, like Zampa, for instance, and there was another prominent one, they decided to go back. Lynn, I know, made inquiries as to whether they could get individual charter flights to fly back. So I don't think in itself the virus is a threat to the game. I think it's the surrounding aspect.
Yeah, I suppose it's if it seems a little vulgar to be going on with a high-profile, large, high-roller sporting competition during such a crisis moment. But I guess that's a judgment call, and I think on balance I would agree with you, Tony, that at the moment it seems like it's something for people to enjoy.
Place yourself in the UK, and if soccer had been closed down completely, I think that the ramifications of that amongst the supporters and all the peripheral people would have been immense, and the depression that would have set in. At least they played without crowds, which is what's been happening in the IPL now, and I think therefore it's right to go ahead. I personally don't have any qualms of conscience about it.
No. Well, it's certainly an interesting judgment call. We've got a few folk watching this evening. It'll be interesting to see if anyone wants to drop us a message and tell us what they think about that. Are you still enjoying the cricket in India, or are you slightly tinged with a little bit of regret that it's going on whilst India is suffering such a difficult moment? It'd be interesting to hear your views. So please leave us a comment. Well, whilst we're talking about the IPL, I think we should probably talk a bit about the cricket that's been going on, Tony. So we're 6-7 games in now, and the table's starting to stratify a little bit. And I have to say, to somewhat to my surprise, Chennai Super Kings are top of the table. They've won 5 of their 6 games so far. And for me, have been a bit of a surprise. I have to be honest. I think Faf du Plessis is rolling back the years and is doing very, very well. Joined at the top of the order user by Gaikwad, who also has scored lots of runs.
Yes, after a shaky start, he has come on now and is scoring runs all over the show.
Yeah. And the other thing, when I had a quick look at their numbers today, the bowling attack, I mean, given, and I don't mean this to sound as disparaging as it probably will, but given that 2 of their bowling attack are often Sam Curran and Moeen Ali, they seem to be bowling pretty tight. I mean, I wouldn't have said either Mo or Sam Curran were particularly renowned for being miserly in white ball cricket. Wicket takers perhaps and useful bowlers, but not necessarily tying up an end and drying up runs. And the Super Kings bowling has been pretty tight. They've been pretty good at keeping the run rate under control. So it's pretty impressive.
One of the things I've noticed that actually one of the best ways it's been found to restrict the scoring of the opposition has been to get wickets.
Yeah.
And I mean, there have been some very low scores, comparatively speaking, in the 110s, 120s, which has been a great economy. But while he's talking about the Chennai Super Kings, I must mention Jadeja. I mean, he is having a tournament. I was just looking, I mean, apart from the wondrous 37 that he took off in 1 over, equaling Gale's record and way back in 2011, his fielding has been astonishing. He took 4 catches against Rajasthan Royals, each of them brilliant, and he was so confident in his catching that he pretended to drop one over the boundary for a 6, but it was a fake, and he had caught it, and into the bargain he took 2 wickets. And then he had an over where he dismissed in one match, he dismissed de Villiers and Maxwell, and then ran out Dan Christian in the same over. I mean, the man is phenomenal. He scored 109 runs at a strike rate of 190, and has taken 5 wickets at just over 6 and over. And in the last match, he scored a 28-ball 62 not out to carry his team to victory. I mean, the man is astounding. And when you think that he was actually a great doubt to play in the tournament at all, because when he was on tour in Australia, he was out for over 2 months with a broken finger. Yeah. And his captain was quoted as saying that he doubted. Oh no, not the captain. The manager was quoted as saying he was very doubtful to start, and they wondered would they be able to get him back in time. And look what he's done. He must be, I think, in my opinion. There was a question came up when I was watching a match the other day, which is the best all-rounder in the IPL, and they gave 3 choices, and we have actually just mentioned the 3. Moeen, Sam Curran and Jadeja, and the vote was over 80% for Jadeja, and the other 2 got about 20% or less than 20% between them. So he is, to my mind, he has been the revelation so far. We all knew he was a good cricketer, but he went under the radar because of the broken finger and missing 2 months.
Well, I guess he must be really itching to make his mark, because obviously there was a pretty wonderful run of cricket for India in all forms of the game from that Australia, the remainder of the Australian tour, then England's tour to India, where he saw Washington Sundar and Axar Patel and others.
And he was a bystander watching on. So
absolutely.
He had something to prove.
So
Yeah.
I think it's great, and of course he's got the World Test Championship final to kind of get himself back in contention for and be
I
in the
would think
team.
he'll be pretty good in English conditions too.
Yeah.
The other thing I have to say, I don't know if you watched the match between Warner's team and the Delhi Chiefs, which went down to the super over.
Yeah, I did see that, and I'd be interested in your take. For my money, the Sunrisers, that's Warner's team, Sunrisers Hyderabad, got the super over completely wrong. I mean, I think, as you would expect me to say, absolutely fine getting Rashid Khan to bowl their over. I could see the sense in that.
Yes, your man.
But they didn't really give him a lot to defend, did they?
Well, I mean, first of all, I thought that the Delhi, if you're going sort of rewind a bit with about 3 overs to go, I thought the Delhi Chiefs were past the post, and then Kane Williamson produced and Rabada bowled a 4 over, and Williamson, I think, scored 15 off the last over to tie the match. And then unaccountably, to my mind, when I saw Warner walking out to bat in the super over, I thought, where is Bairstow? He top scored in the innings with 38 and hit the ball all around the show. And I thought he was the natural choice to open up, especially against the bowling, which I think they were on the back foot and were lucky to get into the super over, the Delhi Chiefs. So I was amazed that he didn't open up with Bairstow. And what did they get? And then to compound the fella, Warner ran a run short.
Yeah, I know. I hadn't seen that for. I can't remember the last time I've seen a player get called for a one short. The old rare umpire's signal of one short that you don't get to see very often.
Yeah,
that's it. For people that are watching aren't sure, it's obviously you take it for granted when cricketers are running between the wickets that they ground their bat behind the line to do a full run, and when they don't, it's called being one short. And Warner and you could see it very clearly on the replay. He slid his bat towards the line, but pulled it away before it crossed him.
If you like to christen it, the VAR of cricket proved without any shadow of doubt that it was a run. It was one short.
It was. Mm-hmm.
It came to me, even though this wasn't the World Cup final, England versus New Zealand, but the stress that was on in that over was quite astonishing. To go and get 7 runs in the over, and then Delhi Chiefs scrambling over the line with a leg by, I think, at the end. It just shows you the pressure that's on for those things. And
Absolutely.
You have to hand it to them. The super over is a good innovation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It makes
absolutely. Yeah, you don't get too many ties. You don't get that many super overs. But no. It was a good game. And you're right. I really enjoyed Williamson's innings at the end of that game. But I have to say, Rabada bowled a shocking over.
Awful.
Really poor over. And again, maybe that was nerves.
I'm a Rabada fan. I mean, he bowled 2 very good balls and 4 absolutely 5 because he bowled 1 wide. Very, very poor. I'd like to come back to Johnny Bairstow, who, apart from yesterday when he failed, he is now the 4th fastest man to 1,000 IPL runs, and he scored 63 off 56 balls, 43 off 22 balls, and 38 off 18 balls in previous matches, and so was in a rich vein of form. Which to me made it all the more astonishing that he didn't go out for the and he's now the 3rd leading run scorer behind Darwan and Maxwell in the competition. So I think Johnny Bairstow is having a great tournament.
He certainly is. Yeah, no, he's doing really, really well. But I have to say, I guess maybe the issue for the Sunrisers is they've got a lot of good batsmen. But when you've got Warner, and I think this might be a problem for the Kolkata Knight Riders as well, when your skippers, you're an overseas player, they're always going to play. So it really only means you've got 3 to choose from you can rotate in and out. Now for Sunrisers, they've got Rashid Khan, who I think is, I know I like him. It's a bit of a joke. But he's an absolute definite pick for his skills in T20 cricket. So that then leaves 2. Well, when you've got Williamson and you've got and you've got Bairstow, but then it means that there's not, it means you're relying on you're not bringing in, apart from Rashid Khan, any overseas players into your bowling attack, and supplementing that with that. So I don't know, maybe they've got one international superstar batsman too many. I thought it looked like a really, really strong squad on paper before the tournament, and I was really excited to see it, but it just hasn't really fired.
But badly as they've started, I still wouldn't rule them out. Some of their defeats, I mean, they lost on the Super Over. They lost another one by 1 run. And so it could easily have turned around. They could easily have had 4 more points. So and there's still a long way to go.
There is,
I wouldn't necessarily rule them out. The only thing is that I saw Warner struggling to hit the ball. He's in a position where he's trying too hard, and he's getting himself worked up. I mean, he was showing all the anxiety and aggravation when he was batting, which frustration, if you like. I think he's got to try and relax himself a little bit more. And once he gets one decent middle of the bat series of runs in one innings, I think he'll come good.
Yeah, he's a very good batsman. Yeah, I was just looking at the table, actually, looking at the net run rate. So their net run rate is better than Rajasthan Royals, better than the Punjab Kings, and better than KKR. So in fact, so the bottom 4 teams have all got negative net run rate. The top 4 teams have all got positive net run rate. But Sunrisers is probably is the better of them all, despite them being bottom of the table, because they've only got 2 points. So that goes to show, as you say, Tony, they're probably a bit closer, and actually could have a run of 4 or 5 games where they win 3 or 4 and only lose 1, and then that puts them right back in the mix.
And don't forget all the ones at the top. They've all got to play themselves, each other, and that will give the Sunrisers a chance to make progress. I wouldn't rule them out yet, but I still stick with my choice, the Delhi Chiefs. I think they're going to be in the final.
Yeah, well, I think Dhawan, Pant, and Shaw have all played very well. I think Shaw today got some good runs, and they won very handsomely today. And Avesh Khan is taking the wickets, 13 wickets at 15, going for less than 7.5 runs and over, which in the context of the IPL is pretty good going. So, they're looking like a good team. And the other team that are doing really well, of course, are the Kohli Galacticos, the Royal Challengers Bangalore.
Yes.
But it's the great AB de Villiers who's really making hay for them, and Glenn Maxwell that are doing the business. They're doing superb. De Villiers is what he's kind of scores 70 odd, then doesn't get many, scores 70 odd, then doesn't get many, scores 70 odd. So he's kind of
and because he's keeping wicket, De Villiers is giving an opportunity for an extra player to come into the team. Which is the same with Bairstow. He's keeping wicket. So really, when you come back to the selection of Warner's team, Bairstow is keeping wicket, so he's virtually a shoe-in, which restricts their overseas players even more.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's a very good point, Tony. That's a very good point. Maybe there's some squad building stuff here going on that wasn't too clever, or maybe they had a plan and they've not been able to follow it through. But interesting. No, but certainly for me so far, I think Chennai, Delhi and Royal Challengers Bangalore have probably been the best teams. I suppose that another team that the Punjab Kings have been quite disappointing so far as well, and again that was another team that I was really looking forward to watching. I thought they would be a decent side, but they've not really managed to put too much together so far. They've been quite disappointing. So that's I'm surprised at that, because I thought they have a good squad. I thought they had plenty to offer. Rahul, Chris Jordan, who we both like, Chris Gale's in that team, Mayank Agarwal, who's a good player, Shami and so on.
Chris Gale in the field has astonished me. He's throwing himself around like a 10-year-old.
He's been all right in the field. He's been pretty good.
He's good value for money.
Yeah. No, he is, and and Fabian Allen as well, who's been excellent this winter. Another. So again, they're a team. They've kind of got it all there. They just haven't quite put it together. They haven't quite put enough together to get them over the line. Nicholas Puran is in that team. He's had a shocking run with about 28 runs in 5 innings.
And he got run out in the most unfortunate fashion.
He did.
The match before last, so the luck's not going his way as well.
No, that's right. That's right. So, that's a team that, again, I think are disappointed, but also joining them kind of in the bottom there is Kolkata Knight Riders and the Rajasthan Royals, who we picked before the tournament as probably not having enough to compete with the other sides, and they're kind of performing as expected, which is a shame because it's Morgan's team, and it's Just Butler's team, and again, I think that they're not really.
Neither of them. Morgan scored a few in the previous match. Mm-hmm. He got 40 odd not out to see them over the line, but Butler is having a terrible run. He's not, and he does need to score, even though he's again another one who's keeping wicket and giving space for somebody else to come into the team as well. But he's not doing what Pant and Bairstow and De Villiers are doing. He's not scoring runs.
No, that's right. That's right. I mean, he's scored 130 runs in 6 innings so far, averaging 21-22. But his strike rate is at 127. Now, I know he's opening the innings, and you could say, well, when you're opening the innings, you don't necessarily go quite as fast in that first power play. But he's way down the averages list for his team. He's being outbatted by a fair few there, and that's going to be a worry. Chris Morris is a very expensive player in the tournament. He's not doing too bad. He's okay with the bat. He's got a couple of not outs which are inflating his average, but he scored 48 runs in 4 innings, which I suppose is.
I'm a bit cruel about him. I think he's just short of the top echelon. I think they paid an awful lot of money for. When you think of what they paid for him, they're not getting what they paid for. That's the cruel truth. He's doing all right, but he should be, for what they paid, he should be doing better.
Yeah, I mean he's bowled 22 overs so far. He's taken 11 wickets, which is pretty good. But that's an average of, and his average is good. His average is under 18, which is great. His economy rate is nearly 9, and I think this is the Rajasthan Royals' problem. The most economical bowler is Unad Khat, who's going at just over 7, which is fine. Then everybody else is going at 8 or more.
Yeah.
When you've got,
you're not getting wickets at crucial times. I mean, more and more you're seeing in this tournament now, people either getting off to an absolute blast start, not losing any wickets, or else the other extreme. They're losing 3 and 4 wickets within the power play even. So, I mean, there's been several times when 3 wickets have gone during power play, and that puts the batting side on the defensive then.
It does. Yeah. So, and the only other team, just as we haven't mentioned them, is the Mumbai Indians, who are kind of there or thereabouts. They're a good team.
Yes.
Yeah. Bit mid-table.
I can't make up my mind about them. Something tells me that they might burst into form. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm just looking at seeing who they have in their team.
Well, Chris Lynn is in there. He's away. So it's Sharma and Quinton de Kock, who's another overseas player who's keeping wicket.
Yeah, de Kock's
Pollard. The Pandya brothers. Yeah, the Pandya brothers haven't done much with the bat so far.
Pollard came in with a magnificent reputation, and he hasn't quite delivered.
No, that's right.
They're a bit like the Sunrisers. I wouldn't totally rule them out.
No. I think you're right. I think. As well, looking at their bowling averages, Bumrah, who plays every game and bowls every game, going at less than a run a ball, which is terrific.
Yeah, amazing.
Chahar, who's taken most wickets for them, he's taken 11 wickets. And again, his economy rate is just over 7. And in fact, most of their bowlers, and this is the difference between them perhaps and Rajasthan Royals, is most of their bowlers are going at under 8. Trent Bolt, interestingly, just going just above 8, and Kieron Pollard going above 8. Coulter has just played the once, is quite expensive, but it was just 1 game.
Yeah.
So so their bowling is probably a bit stronger if their batting is still a little bit middle of the road. But I think you're right. I think they could spark into life. Nobody's really got much of a score yet. They've only scored 350s in the tournament. So a 63 for Sharma, a 70 for de Kock, and a 56 for Yadav, for old SKY.
Yes, Rohit scored 46, I think, in the first match, didn't he?
Yes, I think he did. Yeah, he got another score, so it's close. But it's interesting at this stage of the season. After 6 games, you'd probably think that you'd have more than 350s to the sides total. So if they get that right, then every chance of pushing into the top echelons. But yeah, interesting times. So let's see how it goes. Maybe Sir Ravi Jadeja can get Chennai Super Kings all the way. Let's see if he does that.
I think he's a shoo-in for player of the tournament.
Mm-hmm. He is. So moving away from the IPL, but kind of touching on what we spoke about first time a little, which is Australians going home. Well, in the county championship, one of the interesting kind of off-field stories this week, Tony, and if you haven't heard this before, then prepare to be offended and shocked. Billy Stanlake is signed for Derbyshire. Billy Stanlake, Australian, very tall Australian fast bowler.
Yeah.
However, he's coming into the country. He has to go through the full quarantine isolation period because the county championship, believe it or not, is not considered by the UK government to be top level sport.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Well, what are you saying? Therefore, that they're not practicing in truth. They're not practicing a bubble.
I don't think it's the Derbyshire end. I think it's for some top level sport they waive some of the restrictions and quarantining, but they're not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I must admit I find it must be very difficult with the county championship to practice a really secure bubble.
Yeah.
Because the travelling is difficult, but it would be interesting to see in the next, I believe spectators are due to be allowed in again.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, they'll soon be back. Yeah.
So that may change things. And I noticed that the other Australian, Marcus Labuschagne, is it?
Yeah, Marcus Labuschagne. Yeah, he started
he played for Glamorgan today.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right. Did he get many runs, Tony? Do you know?
16, I think he got.
16.
Something like that, yeah, in the teens anyway. Mm-hmm. Nothing to set the world on fire, but I think he strikes me as being in the top half dozen bats in the world at the moment. If he brings his form from Australia and that back into the county championship.
Yeah. Well, when I did my analysis of the World Test Championship, Tony, he was the standout batsman by a long way.
Yeah.
And I think he's a terrific player, and I think Australia have got with him at 3 and Smith at 4, with Warner opening with that's their problem, is nobody to open with Warner at the moment. But that's a hell of a top order really they've got there. A lot of class.
And if Maxwell brings his IPL form into Test Arena, that'll be something else. And then they've got a fantastic bowling attack with Cummins and the 2 other fast men and Patterson as well, even.
Yeah, so, they've got and Jay Richardson's coming up on the rails as well as possibly one to watch. So no, lots of good Australians. But let's not depress ourselves by talking about how good the Australians are.
No. We've got a pace attack that's certainly they're equal, I would believe.
Yeah. I think so. I hope so. But what's been interesting, some people we've been speaking about on the show over the last few weeks have been doing the business. I want to talk about sort of an overseas batsman that's come over and is starting to do very well. As you mentioned him last week, it's Bedingham at Durham.
Yes.
Interesting. I didn't know a lot about him, and I got very excited because I hoped he was a Tyro Englishman, but he's not. He's a 27-year-old South African who was previously playing in obviously in South Africa, I think for Western Province, I think.
Yeah.
But has decided to forego his South African Test or international ambitions to make a life as a county cricketer, which I think says something quite interesting about, possibly about South African cricket and its rewards.
I think it's in the doldrums at the very moment, and the board is in complete disarray.
It is, yeah. But certainly he's doing very well. It's not his first season at Durham, but now I think he previously might have been a Kolpak player. We discussed those before last week, but now he's there as an overseas player. And I say he got 257, and to cap it all off, a 73 as well in the same game last week, in the county championship game that started last week. So he's in that's a pretty good start to the season, I have to say.
Yeah. He's tremendous. Yeah, he's tremendous.
Yeah, no, he's doing incredibly well so far, and he's the leading run scorer as of today in the county championship. He scored nearly 565 runs already in 6 innings.
Incredible.
With his not outs, he's averaging 141. So you take that at the end of the season. Amazingly enough,
yes.
Get this: he's had 6 innings, 200s, 250s, and a duck.
Yes. I was looking. There've been 1 or 2 people have started well. There's a guy called Ben Slater, for Notts, and he's had 2 centuries and a 50, and he's scored 425 runs so far. He got a duck today, I think, too.
Right.
But also, I was a possible open window. Burns today for Surrey, having bowled out Hampshire, and then Burns came in to face Abbas and Abbott, who are both on fire at the present moment, and he's ended the day 61 not out.
That's good. That's timely runs for him.
Yes, hopefully he's maybe on the way back. And I know you're a fan of this man, Joe Clark. He got 60 odd today too.
Yeah. All right, no, it's been interesting to watch, and actually the way they've structured the county championship this part of the season is something that I've long thought would be worth doing, which is you start the games on the same day of the week every week. You start them on a Thursday, so you kind of know where you are with your calendar. But interesting with the bat as well. So far, as well, we spoke last week about Adam Lyth from Yorkshire. Unfortunately, he got a duck today.
Yes.
But he's the second highest run scorer in the championship. Nonetheless,
I'm doing Ben Slater a terrible misjustice. He scored 107 today. He didn't get a duck, and he scored 45 and 114 in the last match. So he's really in form.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I tell you one person who is really intriguing me, and I will be watching him very closely this year, and that's Joe Root's younger brother.
Yeah,
playing for Glamorgan. He's 34 now. He's started the season very well indeed, and got a ton against Yorkshire, and went through it by turning an off break from his elder brother down behind short leg for the 100th run. I'll be very interested. He's 28 years of age, and he had a very good season last season. Not outstanding, but a good, solid season. And it'd be interesting to see whether he builds on that. And they'll have Labuschagne there with him. So I think he might get a bit of confidence. And I'll watch his progress with interest.
Yeah, Glamorgan have started pretty well, actually, looking at both Kieran Carlson, who we spoke about a little bit last week, and Cook are both averaging in the 80s at the moment. I mean, it's early days and a little bit of not out in there. But Carlson has scored 427 runs, doing very well this season. Good strike rate too. Strike rate of 70.
I have a bit of a soft spot for Glamorgan. I'm showing my age here dramatically, but I had an uncle who won the championship with Glamorgan in 1948.
Oh yeah.
A guy called Len Muncer, and he did the double in that season. And
as in 100 wickets and 1,000 runs.
100 wickets and 1,000 runs.
Very good.
He was a failure at Middlesex, and he went down to Glamorgan, and he couldn't do a thing wrong. So I followed him, obviously being an uncle of mine, and I have a bit of a soft spot for Glamorgan.
Oh, very good.
That's of course many years ago. I mustn't get too old-fashioned about these things.
No, but that's a lovely link to have, though. That's as good a reason as any to keep keep your eye on a county. That's for sure.
To go to other things, I see Wood appeared for Durham today and took three wickets against Warwickshire, who were in strong batting form. So I regard that as 3 for 20 he took.
Yeah.
It was against, so I regard that as a very promising return, and I'm delighted to see that. But it just does show you, I think, that this time of the year, if you're a good seam or a pace bowler, you're still going to do well. I mean, Leach, and Bess. I was looking at Don Bess there now. playing for Yorkshire so far this season. He scored, his batting average is 33 and his bowling average is 43. You know, and that includes taking, I think, 6 or 7 wickets in one innings.
Yes, he did. That's right.
Certainly a fifer in one innings, anyway.
No, he took 6 for 53 against Sussex last week.
Yeah.
So,
and I think he's only taken one other wicket besides that. So, you know, it's hard work for the spinners at this time of the year. And there's no doubt about it. You've got to be somebody exceptional like Simon Harmer, maybe, to go. I tell you another thing. I'm looking back now. Going back, I was looking at the leading 3 teams in each division, and it was the first Group 1 or Group A which took my eye. Warwickshire played 3, won 2, drawn 1, lost none. 53 points. They're leading. Essex are third. Played 3, won 1, drawn 1, lost 1. But the second team is Worcestershire, who have not won a match. And it brought me back to the fact that they've increased the points for drawn games to 8, and they've drawn all 3 of their games and have amassed a lot of batting bonus points, and they're sitting second on 41 points. So it'll be interesting to see out over the rest of the season whether the added points, 8 points for a draw, does actually skew the
table a little. I think if I remember rightly, they've done that to reward teams that scrap for a draw and kind of managed to save themselves.
Yeah, I was reading only today. I was reading that one of the main architects behind the scheme was Joe Root himself, who said it will do 2 things. It will, as you say, reward the people who fight out for the draw, but will also encourage what he called more responsible batting. You know, playing with a greater 4-day inclination, if you like. We seem to forget that the county championship is over 4 days, and so you can take your time over your innings. And he's hoping, I think, that they will get more games going to the last day and ending in draws. But the other two leagues, Hampshire are top of 1 just from Gloucestershire, and Lancashire just from Yorkshire in the third one.
Interesting. So we were talking about Bess, and the other spinner we've spoken about a bit on this show over the weeks and months is actually Matt Parkinson of Lancashire. We've got to mention his bowling performance so far this season. So not only has he bowled one that YouTube will tell you is the ball of the century, which was an absolute beauty against Northamptonshire. I have to say, it really was almost a perfect reproduction of the Shane Warne delivery to Mike Gatting. Leg spinner, curved it out to outside the right-hander's leg stump, and it spun back across him and clipped off stump. Beautiful delivery. But he's followed that up with a 4th innings 7 for 126 against Kent last week. And the thing I noticed, as conceding 126 might tell you, is he actually bowled 50. He bowled 52 overs.
Yes,
he bowled 52 overs, you know, that's heartening to see a leg spinner that can bowl a very long spell like that. Because sometimes the mechanics of leg spin means it's quite difficult for them to bowl as long a spell as perhaps a slow left arm bowler or an ordinary off spinner, because of the stresses on the body. So that's very encouraging that he can bowl a 52 over stint in an innings. And so far this season, he's taken 16 wickets at 19. So if you were looking purely at which English qualified spinner you might want to have a look at for the forthcoming tests at the start of June, you've got to say Parkinson's in with a shout. And one of the reasons I say that is that it's been interesting listening to Dominic Bess being interviewed this last week, where he's given an interview and he spoke about really how he really fell out of love with the game towards the end of the India tour, and it really wasn't, he wasn't having a lot of fun. But the way he was phrasing it is around, you know, so I'm going to go away and rediscovering my love of cricket and so on and that sort of thing. and refining my game. They've told me what I need to do to improve, so that when I come back, ... which to me sounded a little bit like, maybe I'm reading too much into it, Bess had been told, look, we're not going to pick you this summer. You need to go away and have a solid season with Yorkshire. Show us what you can do. Get your stock ball to be, the length of your stock ball to be more consistent. Which I would be saying to Dominic Bess. They might be saying something else, of course. Keep developing and plugging away like that. So I wonder, maybe they'll just stick with Leach. Parkinson's no great batsman, so he's not going to. He would have to bat at 11, I would have thought, in a Test team. But it may be just, I would say, on the edges that Parkinson is edging his way into view for the Test selectors.
The difficulty with it, both he and Leach, of course, are effectively turning the ball from leg to off.
Yeah.
So you maybe need an offie for your other spinner. And I wondered about Moeen, but I raised this with you before, but I've now, with the new quarantine rules for the cricketers coming back from the IPL, it looks as if none of those cricketers currently out in India will be available, certainly for the first 2 and probably for the first 3 tests of the summer against New Zealand. Now that is going to throw some openings there. I mean, you're looking at Butler, you're looking at Bairstow, and you're looking at some of the fast bowlers. You're looking at Chris Wokes, for instance, and Archer is going to be out, and Stokes is going to be out. So we're going to be and the only thing is that presumably Trent Boult, who's out there in India, he won't be available to play for New Zealand either.
Kane Williamson perhaps as well.
Kane Williamson won't be either. Yes,
it would make a little bit of a mockery of the tests if
I worry
so many people playing. Yeah,
I worry for that as far as the watching cricket fan is concerned. But on the other hand, it is an opportunity maybe to blood somebody for ourselves in the team to see how, get them used to it and get them used to the pressure of playing in a Test team. So I looked at Hamid, who scored consecutive tons, but it was against a weak bowling attack, and he got a duck today.
He did, yeah. I was very excited. I've long liked old Hasib. I think he was such an exciting player when he came on the scene. He looked just what England needed at the top of the order, and then it didn't really happen for him. He had a very disappointing time at Lancashire after that, and rediscovering himself at Notts. And I was disappointed he got a duck today, because I was wondering if he was going to play himself back into contention. Still
lacking, I think. He's got to prove it against the better class of bowling attacks, I think, before he would merit a place, in my opinion. But there is no doubt, and we've spoken about this, Steve, in previous weeks. That's why I raised the point about Burns getting runs today. The top of the order is wide open. Open. I mean, Crawley has not set the world on fire for Kent by a long shot.
No, he has not. He has not.
And so we're desperately scrabbling, I think. And so it might be that some of these youngsters, like your Joe Clark, for instance, might force his way in.
Yeah, who knows? Should be some interesting stuff to choose from. But, well, Mac, there you are. We've thoroughly dissected the county game for the last week and given you the IPL.
He's gone to sleep.
Yeah, guys, you're right.
We've stunned him into silence.
Yeah, just I've come back like a mist. But thank you so much, boys. That was brilliant. Yeah, thank you for covering the IPL. And thank you for covering the county cricket. And look, even if you're not watching this live, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for all the people who watched last week's as well, even though most of you watched it after we'd actually done it. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. So let us know your thoughts about the IPL. Should it be cancelled? It's the middle of a pandemic. The boys think, for the most part, and I totally agree, actually.
Particularly, do they think that the IPL should continue? Do they agree with us who feel maybe the psychology of it carrying on is more beneficial than the perceived, I can almost call it arrogance of continuing when India's in such a tragic circumstance. I would like to hear what other people think on that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I think a good point there that, you know, even here in the UK, we carried on in the middle of the pandemic. Football still carried on, and it only stopped really once for a brief period. But people do need that escapism and do need to see something different from the doom and gloom. But we'd like to hear your thoughts, and obviously we'd love to hear people who may be affected by it. Is it something that kind of moves you away from that? So that'd be great. And the county cricket, if you mentioned quite a lot there, boys, about different people, Joe Root's brother, and all the rest of the guys that you mentioned, many people. So let us know your thoughts on county cricket. It's the spring going into summer, so we're going to be here every week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to follow this Twitter channel, okay, Twitter feed, which is at SFTV_cricket. So thanks again to Tony. Thank you for all your help. And thank you for Steve, the cricket guy. Appreciate everything you've done. So thank you for watching. Continue to leave comments, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Thursday, 8 o'clock English time, GMT.